team, before we begin today's episode of Potterless, just a few quick announcements. First, it is the first episode in the month of April, meaning that it's donation time. So here at Potterless, we give $1 for every patron that we have at patreon.com/Potterless, and we currently have 170 members on our team. So we will be giving $170 to Donate Life. It is a charity that was suggested by producer-level patron Vicky Garcia, because April is National Donate Life Month. So Donate Life helps facilitate organ donor transplants. So if you go to donatelife.net, you can register to be an organ donor. You also can register to be an organ donor whenever you get your driver's license or get your license renewed. That's how I became a donor. And one organ, eye, and tissue donor can save and heal more than 75 lives. So I think it's a great charity to help out, and thank you, Vicky, so much for this suggestion. Second, I have a very special announcement. Potterless is officially a real big boy podcast now, because today's episode is brought to you by Audible. Audible is the best and easiest way to listen to audiobooks, and they have a special offer to Potterless listeners of a free audiobook to go along with a 30-day free trial for first-time users. I use Audible, and it's honestly fantastic. All you have to do is go to audible.com/Potterless or text the word Potterless to 500-500 to get started. I'll be giving a book recommendation and discussing this deal a little bit more in the middle of the show, but I am honored to have them as my first sponsor, and I'm very excited to do ad reads because it's my goal to make Potterless's ad reads the most entertaining ad reads in the business. Another exciting announcement, we passed our 150 patron goal, meaning that a Potterless merch store is coming soon. I've been talking with people about making that happen, so get ready. And speaking of Patreon, we have a whole bunch of new patrons to welcome to our team. So shout out to Stina McGurr, Natalie Mayer, Ellie Leonard, Valerie Molina, Mary Cifuentes, Jocelyn Hannah Graff, Jessica Denise Lopez Adelaide, Porter Gregg, Willow Elser, Guillermo Pagan Rivera, Anna Elisa Gonzalez, Lexi Aerosmith, Sarah Jones, Hannah Viza, Callahan Anderez, Christina Heiberg, Christine, Alexandra Rousseau, Abby Kirk, Cody Kratzer, Miriam Yafrach, Elizabeth Walker, Anna Perinetto, Jade, Afreen Rahman, Aurelia Conchevishute, Desiree DaCosta, Cyril Gavary, Cassidy Dwyer, Michaelin Howard Mullen, Natanya Page, and Caitlin Maxwell. And a huge shout out to our newest producer level patrons, Rebecca Vinsnes, Abid Ahmed, Caitlin Jordan Pontello, Lee Xiaoru, Ayana Chalewa, Benjamin Bridges, and Dave the Mailman. They joined the ranks of Leanne, Andreas, Vicky, Aaron, Erica, Calvin, Michael, Sadie, Jesse, Natalie, Deborah, Clow, Alex, Rebecca, Frank, Marchismo, Tori, Samantha, Juan, Sheila, Jenna, Kieran, Louise, Akanksha, and Sarah, who, unlike most people, don't butcher the first slice of cake or pie. And without further ado, let's get into episode 39 of Potterless, covering chapters 2 through 4 of Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, starring Mischa Stanton of Ars Paradoxica. Hello, Internet, and welcome back to another episode of Potterless, the tale of a 25-year-old man reading the Harry Potter series for the first time. My name is Mike Schubert. I'm that 25-year-old man, and we are back again with podcast sage and lord of the audio editing stuff, Mischa Stanton of Ars Paradoxica, The Bright Sessions, Wolf 359, and 38 jillion other podcasts. Mischa, how's it going?
It's going really good. I'm excited to be back.
I'm excited to have you back. We just finished up the hypest of chapters, seeing that that is the only episode of Potterless that has ever been devoted to one chapter. So,
oh wow, really?
Throw that one up on the resume. Yeah, I think we've had episodes that have covered 2 chapters, but I'm pretty sure that's the only one that has been solely devoted to one chapter.
Wow.
Yeah. We did have one that we did like 2 about the Yule Ball, but I think that still might have either spanned 2 chapters, but that was a special thing where I had 2 guests. But yeah, this was the only time, 1 chapter, 1 guest, just talking about the chapter the whole time.
And it doesn't even have like any of the main characters. We just said in the previous episode that it is the most Potterless episode of Potterless.
It is literally the most Potterless episode because it features no one with the name Potter. I don't think they even talk about Harry. I don't know if they
they're just like, I think they mentioned Sirius Black and that was it.
Yeah.
Anyway, enough with the first chapter. We finished it.
Yeah, we're done. Otherwise, we're going to talk about it for another hour. We are here to cover chapters 2 through 4 of Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. We're going to get right into it. Chapter 2, Spinner's End. So we come upon Narcissa and Bellatrix Lestrange having a bit of a tiff. Bellatrix calls Narcissa Sissy, and Narcissa calls Bellatrix Bella. Personally, I would have gone with Trixie, a la Trixie Tang from Fairly Odd Parents, but that's just me.
I don't know. It's hard because these are such ridiculous and unfamiliar names that I don't really know how I would shorten them because they're not real names.
Yeah, we don't know what the proper nickname formation is. Sissy is on a mission to do something in Muggleland that she's being very vague about, a la anytime someone is on a mission to do something in a Harry Potter book. And Bellatrix is trying to get her to stop.
Come on, it's environment. They're building it. It's like they're building suspense, man. Come on, fall into it.
That's always what happens. I just get frustrated because I'm like, what is it? Like, it makes me just want to like skip ahead
Just
and then
tell
like
me.
find out what it is and then go back. Be like, okay, that's what it is. Jeez. So, so Narcissa is trying to find someone that apparently Voldemort trusts, but Bellatrix, big reveal, thinks that he is mistaken for trusting. This is pretty shocking, seeing that Bellatrix is very Team Voldemort.
Yeah, she is like his most loyal, and that's kind of where it comes from. It's kind of like, I am so close to him that I don't want to see him betrayed because only I know what's best for him because he's chosen me to be by his side. But like, I don't know. It's definitely a point of contention between her and her Dark
Yeah,
Lord.
it really is. So Narcissa ends up at the door of a house on Spinner's End, hence the title of this chapter, and we learn that it's Snape. Great. I was not expecting this at all. Now, I will say, I know some spoilers, unfortunately. I know that at some point in this or the next book, Snape kills Dumbledore. And I know that he does it. I mean, that's just Tumblr existing.
Fair.
I know that Snape kills Dumbledore. I know that he does it for a good reason. And I know that I don't know if he's like a full good guy, but we at least like don't hate Snape. Like, I just know that he's not evil.
All right, but I want to know right now. Chapter 2, Half-Blood Prince.
Oh,
Team
I
Snape,
hate
team not
Snape. I think he's awful.
Okay.
I get that Dumbledore trusts him and respects him. And a lot of this is probably skewed by the fact that I know he turns out to be good in the end, or at least like fine in the end. But I wish that I knew nothing about like what happens with Snape in the end, because had I gone into this chapter not thinking anything positive of Snape, I would have totally fell for everything that he tells Narcissa and Bellatrix, and I would have been like, I knew it, Snape is evil, blah, and it would have made for way funnier episodes of Potterless, because I would have been like, Snape's the worst, I told you he should have been fired, I don't know why Dumbledore's touching him, like, I would have not believed that all of this is basically Snape lying to them. I would have 1,000% fell for it, and been like, Snape was evil the whole time, here's the big reveal, blah.
Yeah.
I would have freaked out.
I mean, this is a good spot for it, and like, you know, even if we're like fine with Snape at the end, it's not like he's the best guy that ever lived.
No, he's awful. Like, at the end of the day, he's a garbage professor that is abusive to his students and should have been fired at least 10 different times.
He abused a student because he had a crush on his mom.
Yeah, and he was mean to Hermione to her face for no reason except that she's the friend of the kid from his old crush.
Super skeevy.
Oh, you're friends with Harry Potter. I'm going to make fun of you to your face in front of the entire class.
Jeez.
Ugh. Not a fan. So yes, that's my Snape take. But it's Snape at the door, which I still found to be surprising, even knowing, you know, what kind of happens to Snape in the end. So what my thought at this point is that he has Voldemort and the Death Eaters tricked into thinking that he is doing to Dumbledore what he is actually doing to Voldemort.
Yeah, he's like a double-triple agent.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's like he's doing one thing to one side, but he's telling that side that he's doing the exact same thing to the other side. It is a very interesting double agent. It's not like your normal double agent where they're like, oh, I'm pretending to be like your friend. It's like, no, I'm pretending to be the thing I'm doing to you, which I think is not necessarily the best strategy, because like, how did Voldemort not at one point be like, wait a second, how do I know you're not doing this to me? Because it's like literally word for word the exact same thing. I don't understand.
Honestly, it's because Voldemort's so self-obsessed that he couldn't see it.
Yeah, I mean, Voldemort does have his flaws, which is good.
This is a Voldemort call-out post. Come at me, Voldemort.
Yeah, hot take. Someone doesn't like Voldemort. Ooh, spicy takes here on the Potterless podcast. So Snape lets them into his house, and Wormtail is there, which I was also confused by.
Why is he just chilling in Snape's house?
They don't really get into it, except
No.
that Voldemort sent Wormtail to, you know, assist Snape, and since Snape doesn't like him or any of the Marauders, he basically just turns him into his butler. So So at one point in my notes, I literally wrote, because he tells Wormtail, like, go get me drinks, get us glasses, have everyone sit down. Like, he basically orders him around. And I wrote, is Wormtail Snape's butler now? And the next line of the book is Wormtail going, I'm not your servant. So this is the second time in 2 chapters.
And then Snape says, okay, but yeah, you kind of are, so go get it.
Exactly.
And then he does.
He does, yep. And so clearly Wormtail is. This is the second time in 2 chapters that I have asked a question in my notes, which was immediately answered the next sentence that I read. So, which is my favorite thing that happens. One of my favorite things that happens in Potterless. So apparently Voldemort placed him there to assist Snape. He orders Wormtail to fetch them glasses of wine. Snape pours 3 out. They toast to Voldemort, and then they all chug the wine like they're doing shots.
Yeah, is that not how you toast wine? I don't really drink wine, so I don't. Is that not it?
I don't know if you're being facetious or seriously asking, but usually.
Oh, this is 100% me being facetious. I'm doing a bit. Sorry.
Okay. We're doing an audio Skype call, so I can't see your face.
Come play with me in this space.
I don't know. Some people are like, I don't know. But yes, they toast and then chug the wine and then refill their glasses. And then I assume start sipping them normally. But I just thought that was great. I want to know how full.
In fairness, that is how you do it on Passover when you have to have 4 cups of wine in a single sitting.
I've attended one Passover feast and we were doing the prayer that you I don't know what it's called, but it's like the prayer that goes throughout the whole meal and you do different songs or readings in between. Mm-hmm. And basically.
Oh, yeah, it's like a whole story. It's called the Haggadah. It's like a whole big
It's
thing.
a whole story and you have your key things. And basically, like, before you get to a new part of it, my friend Sam, who was running it, was like, okay, before we start this, everyone has to have finished their second glass of wine. And we're all like, Jesus, what?
Yeah. Passover, you get turned.
Yeah, it gets lit. And then you eat that gefilte fish and it's like, oh yeah, baby. Like, it's popping. So Bellatrix then butts in, asking Snape all of the pertinent questions about where he's been during the major events, which is a very valid concern. So she asks why he didn't join Voldemort earlier, why he hasn't killed Harry, all the things that make sense for her to ask.
Yeah, some actually pretty logical questions coming up.
The whole time I was reading, I was like, wow, this is really astute. Good approach by Bellatrix here. This makes a lot of sense. This is exactly the things that needs to be asked.
What it is that, like, this is one of the first scenes in Harry Potter that's between 2 competent adults or 3 competent adults.
Yes.
As opposed to, like, an incompetent adult and a child or 2 incompetent adults or whatever.
Yeah, a lot of the interactions are between adult and incompetent other person, even when they're both adults, because you'll get, like, McGonagall Umbridge, McGonagall Trelawney, anyone and Gilderoy Lockhart.
Yeah.
Moody and anyone because it was really someone pretending to be Moody. Fudge and anyone. Ludo Bagman and anyone.
And then, like, also the kids are usually there because that's who we're following through the books. But, like, this is really one of the few scenes that is, like, adult who is good at their job and other adults who are good at their jobs, but except one of them's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I mean, you're basically getting Voldemort's number 1 and number 2 talking to each other. Mm-hmm. So it's good that she presses him about this. So Snape brings up the argument that Voldemort, the world's most talented legilimens, clearly has to have asked Snape these same questions, right? Otherwise, he totally would have just murdered Snape, which super valid point by Snape.
I mean, super valid point, but also, didn't we just spend the entire previous book establishing that Snape is one of the best Occlumens in the world?
We did, but I don't know if that is known to the public or just to Dumbledore in the Order.
No, that's fair. He may be, I mean, this entire scene he's lying to them, so, like, this could just be another lie.
Yeah, this could be complete fabrication. But basically, you have this whole back and forth of both of them making really good points. I basically read the entire chapter like that Obama meme where he's got, like, the like, frowning in approval face, like the face.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I read the entire chapter with that face. I was like, oh, yeah, okay. Oh, this makes sense. So Snape basically reveals that it was Voldemort who pushed Snape to take the job at Hogwarts, which is nuts. Didn't see that coming. And he says that he didn't stick with Voldemort when he went away, just like all of the others. And he lists all these people. And when he lists Lucius, he nods to Narcissa. So he's like, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, Lucius. Which I like. I'm not the big fan of Snape, but the way he approaches this entire interaction is like really good just because he's so sassy, but really good about it. So I kind of liked Snape a little bit more than I do.
Snape is, above all things, the sass master. He is, like, so good at the sass.
Yes.
He will come in with the sassiest, like, which is why I think Harry gets on his nerves a lot, because Harry is also a sass master, and he's the young one,
yep.
like the heir to the throne, and Snape is like, I see you
He's his
kid.
apprentice.
Yeah.
This is my turf. I'm the sassy guy. Get
Yeah.
out of here. Listing all the people and saying that, like, look, everyone thought he was dead, so we all just kind of abandoned ship. And Bellatrix yells, I didn't abandon him. And Snape replies, yes, indeed, most admirable, Snape said in a bored voice. So good.
Oh, good. You didn't abandon him during your 12 years of sitting and not having a soul and doing nothing. Great.
Exactly. And then he continues. He goes, of course, you weren't a lot of use to him in prison, but the gesture was undoubtedly fine. And Bellatrix is like, the gesture? And I'm having an emotional crisis at this point reading the book because I'm like, oh no, do I like Snape now? It's the exact same feelings I had when Voldemort used a pun when he fought Harry in the fourth book. Like when he was like, oh, so glad you could lend a hand. I was like, no, do I like Voldemort now? Shit.
Oh, I see what it is. You just like anybody who makes really good puns. I see.
Anyone who's sassy or makes a pun is a friend of mine. So yes, I had to come to grips with like liking Snape a little bit more, which is hard for me because I'm very team fuck Snape. So Bellatrix claims that Snape was just Dumbledore's pet the whole time. He retorts that Dumbledore purposely kept Snape from being the Defense Against the Dark Arts professor to avoid a relapse. Bellatrix calls him out for staying so long, and then Snape reveals all of the reasoning for why he did all of his things. First off, he said that Voldemort is happy that he didn't quit because now he's in a position where he can spy on Dumbledore. 2, it allowed Snape to give Voldemort 16 years of Dumbledore stories rather than just, quote, complaints of being in Azkaban. So basically, he's like, I was more useful than you were.
Dumbledore's.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Can't believe you're
cool.
the best guest I've ever had. You have catapulted to number 1. So 3, he's like, look, it was a comfortable job that was preferable to being in prison, so sue me.
Yeah, like
just great arguments.
Like, Bella, you know how much Azkaban sucked. I didn't want to.
I didn't want to do that. Like, you can't yell at me for not wanting to do it. Bellatrix then brings up the Sorcerer's Stone incident or the Philosopher's Stone incident if you're in the UK. Snape says that Voldemort didn't trust him, so he didn't tell Snape what was going on. And Snape admits that he thwarted Quirrell because Quirrell was weak, greedy, and generally unworthy.
Yeah, he was like, I wasn't against Voldemort. I just thought Quirrell was a dick.
Yup, which solid reasoning. Yeah. Snape says that he was late to the initial Death Eater callback, which I'm assuming they mean in the 4th book. I don't know if they mean the 4th book one or if they mean in the Department of Mysteries or whatever. But Snape says he was late to that because he went all in on trying to win over Dumbledore's trust, and Voldemort knew this, and he only went eventually to meet up with the Death Eaters when Dumbledore told him to do it so that it would look like he wasn't, abandoning the team.
Yeah, because he's being a good double-triple agent. That's how you go undercover, Bella.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's kind of a neat way to look at the scene, right? Because this is sort of Snape in very, very deep, and the way he just sort of plays everything off is kind of a cool look into how he operates.
Yeah. Though I am upset that I didn't get to freak out thinking he was evil and falling for this, it is really fun to be on the other side and know that he's lying to them, and it's really fun to see all of the ways that he is wordsmithing his way around stuff and giving really good arguments of his defense. It's really clever to see him come up with his reasoning for why he didn't do all these things. It's very impressive. He is very talented. I understand why Dumbledore trusts him and keeps him around. Bellatrix asks him what info has he gotten in these 16 years. He says, don't worry about it. It's all been passed to Voldemort. She says, Voldemort tells me everything. He hasn't told me anything that you said. And he goes, still? Even after the fiasco at the Ministry? Which, so good. That gets Bellatrix upset. The blame game is thrown back and forth. Eventually, Bellatrix blames Lucius, which makes Narcissa very upset. She then presses Snape about not revealing the headquarters for Order of the Phoenix. He says there's a secret keeper charm, so he can't because he's not the person.
Oh, how convenient for you,
Very
Mr. Snape.
Convenient. She asks why he hasn't killed Harry Potter. He says that first off, that they weren't sure if he was going to be a threat because some people thought he might be a dark wizard, so they wanted to keep him around.
Well, yeah, because he spoke to snakes and stuff and whatever, and also, maybe Harry Potter wanted to kill him to usurp his place as the Dark Lord? I don't know. That doesn't really track for me.
Yeah, I don't know. But basically, they were like, we had to see first. Then it got to a point where he knew he had to keep him alive so he could use the blood to bring him back. And then finally, now he has to continue to keep him alive so that he can keep Dumbledore's trust. But Snape reveals at one point when he's talking about the Dark Wizard thing, he reveals that he's not a Dark Wizard or, the second coming of Voldemort. He says, quote, he has fought his way out of a number of tight corners by a simple combination of sheer luck and talented friends, which is
my God,
so
so
true.
I
agree with Snape wholeheartedly here.
It's so true. And he describes him as like so thoroughly arrogant, but like just as arrogant as also his father was while not being a good wizard. And I'm like, that isn't wrong. Harry Potter has come through scrapes on sheer luck and thinks he's the greatest.
Exactly. Snape then goes on a rant about how Dumbledore is slipping since the duel with Voldemort. And this is the point where I'm really sad because I know that Snape kills Dumbledore. And I'm afraid that his killing of Dumbledore is going to be something that Voldemort makes him do so that he can prove his worth or prove his loyalty. And Voldemort's going to like make him do it. But Dumbledore's going to be okay with it because he's going to like die anyway. And like it's more useful for Snape to kill Dumbledore so that he can continue to be a spy for Voldemort. Like that's my guess of like what the reasoning is. But it just makes me really sad to like come to grips with this. Don't tell me anything, but we'll see.
Yeah.
This is at least what I'm thinking.
I will say that kind of ties into why they're there, right? Is eventually revealed like why the two sisters have come to see Snape in the first place.
Exactly. They want to prove the loyalty.
Well, it's that Draco.
Oh, the Draco thing. Yeah, and that's my guess is that Draco's been assigned. Yeah, they don't say what it is, but that's my guess. So they finally get to why Narcissa is here. She needs help and has no one to turn to with Lucius being in jail, which, yes, Lucius Malfoy's in jail. Thank God.
Finally.
She mentions that there's a secret plan that Voldemort has that she wasn't supposed to talk about. And Snape's like, no, don't worry. I already know about it. But if you told me and I didn't know about it, that would have been really bad.
Yeah, I love that response from Snape where anytime Bella and Narcissa try to bring up the plan and they're like, it's a secret plan and I know we're not supposed to talk about it. And then Snape's like, then don't talk about it.
Yep.
What is confusing?
They're vague about this plan for the next 4 pages, which had me very upset.
Yep.
I wrote in my book, because I bought a copy of the 6th book solely so that I could like take physical notes in it and stuff and circle things. And in very large capital letters, I was like, just say what the plan is. Like, at the bottom of the pages.
As soon as you mentioned that you don't like how she builds suspense in all of her chapters, I was like, oh, then you must have hated the part where they decidedly didn't say what Draco was doing.
Nope, they still haven't, but I think I have a good idea of what it is. But yeah, they're basically very vague about this plan, but they eventually get to the point that it involves Draco doing something dangerous. Narcissa believes that Draco cannot succeed and that Voldemort has only asked Draco to do it as a means of getting back at Lucius. Snape doesn't deny this, which is telling, which makes me think that it is 1,000% the reason that Voldemort did it. And yeah, my guess is that he has sent Draco in to kill Dumbledore or do something to Dumbledore that is harmful.
But even beyond, like, yes, we're doing this to get back at Lucius, like, also Snape is specifically bringing it up that way to get at them, right? It's a public show of like, this is what happens when you fail, like Lucius did, but also the way he's using it to play them into doing what he wants is, there's so many layers.
Very deep, very deep. So Narcissa then asks him to make the unbreakable vowel, the unbreakable vow.
I'd like to buy an unbreakable vowel.
God. The unbreakable vow, which he agrees to. So clearly this is some sort of spell where it's basically a binding contract.
It's a magic contract.
Exactly. With Bellatrix as their witness, he vows to help Draco, keep him safe, and do the deed himself if Draco proves unable. So I don't know how deep this goes in terms of if this is a long-standing plan where Dumbledore knows that Voldemort is going to do something like this, and Snape agreed to this vow because he knew for a while he was going to have to kill Dumbledore, blah, blah, blah. I will see where this takes us, but these are my thoughts initially. So
that's that good spy shit. I love that shit.
It is very, very deep. It's very deep. I'm excited to see how it works out. But that is the end of Chapter 2. We get into Chapter 3, Will and Won't, which, my first note, we're back to Harry Potter chapters, which makes me sad.
Oh no, Harry Potter's back.
Too bad the rest of this book will be about him too. So you find out Harry is in his room, which is very dirty. There are spell books spread around the floor, and the way that J.K. Rowling describes this is that the books are, quote, higgledy-piggledy across the floor.
No, that's like some magic spell, right? She made that up? That's not real.
I don't know. I don't know if this is a British phrase, but higgledy-piggledy. I'm Googling right now. Higgledy-piggledy. In confusion or disorder. It is not just a magical thing. It is a real phrase that I'm guessing British people say, but I Ugh. Blech.
I would need a British person to say it to me before I will believe that.
Oh, higgledy-piggledy. Yeah, I have no idea.
J.K. Rowling has made up words before, and I would not put it past her.
Yeah, so these books are higgledy-piggledy across the floor. And he has a bunch of copies of the Daily Prophet. One of them calls Harry the Chosen One. One is an article about Scrimgeour succeeding Fudge. And this article hints that Dumbledore and Scrimgeour don't really see eye to eye.
Yeah, there's like a bunch of really, really expositionally convenient articles just strewn about his room, huh? It's just like super convenient that all of these stories are here.
Yes, it is the most convenient articles. It's classic J.K. Rowling. Then there's one called Ministry Guarantees Student Safety, which sure, okay.
Yeah, like that last time with the Dementors, that worked out really well.
Yeah, like that time that Sirius Black was over the bed of Ron Weasley with a giant knife. Yeah, that worked out super well. Good thing they put in hall monitors after. These new features include new defensive charms, new counter curses, and a small group of Aurors stationed to protect the school. These things make sense, but I doubt that they're going to work. Then there's another article with a 7-item list on how to stay safe from Death Eaters. Number 1, don't go out alone. Number 2, don't go out in the dark. Number 3, put defensive charms on your house. Number 4, have security questions with those close to you so that you can tell if people are using Polyjuice Potion.
That's my favorite one because it's also like the defense against parallel universe versions of you. That one comes up in other types of media where like, hey, have security questions with your friends and family in case they accidentally get replaced by duplicates.
I like it. I really like it. 5, contact the authorities if someone is acting weird because it may be the Imperious Curse. 6, do not enter any building or area with a dark mark over it, which seems pretty obvious. Like, I don't know that they needed to describe that one.
Yeah, hey, if there's a loud announcement that a murder just happened, don't go in there.
Yeah, that seems like a bad idea. And then the final thing says to beware of Inferi, which we have not learned about yet, but we learn about later, and to report any sighting of an Inferius. So at this point, I was like, what the hell is this? Dumbledore explains in chapter 4.
Yeah, I mean, do I want to wait to be like outraged about Inferius for chapter 4?
Yeah,
okay.
We'll wait till we get there. So Harry also has a note from Dumbledore saying that he's going to pick him up and bring him to the Burrow, where he will spend the remainder of his school holidays. He mentions that he will discuss a matter with him along the way, and he signs the letter I am, yours most sincerely, Dumbledore, which seems like a bit, I don't know. I thought that was a bit too lovey-dovey.
That's like some Benjamin Franklin shit, like your eternal servant, Silence Dogood. Like, what? People don't write like that anymore, buddy. Just put it in a text. I don't know.
Just be like, best Dumbledore. Love Dumbledore. Later Dumbledore.
TTYL Dumbledore. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. XOXO Dumbledore. So Harry has read this scroll so much that it lays flat, which is really cute and sweet. It's revealed that Harry has only been at the Dursleys' house for 2 weeks, which is a huge improvement from the past. And it's basically like 10:55 when Dumbledore is coming at 11 and Harry hasn't packed, which same. I can relate to so much.
I know. And Harry, in pure abused Harry state, was like, yeah, but this is probably a fake. He's not really coming.
Exactly.
And he didn't plan for it. And it's like so sad.
Yeah, but it's whatever. Thankfully, Harry's pleasantly surprised because at exactly 11, the street light goes out, which is like, woohoo, yay. We get some cool put-outer usage.
Yeah, put-outer.
It's still canon as the put-outer. It's not the deluminator. It's the put-outer. I will die on this hill until the book maybe corrects me later. But I thought it was pretty funny that Dumbledore clearly is not listening to this memo sent out by the Ministry of Magic. They said, stay inside at night. Come on, Dumbledore. Harry didn't tell Vernon that he was coming, which is great. I like a fun little note is that Vernon is apparently wearing a puce colored robe.
Puce dressing gown. Oh my god, I loved that detail. The colors that people wear in this series are nutty.
Very nutty. But I mean, puce is just like a funny way to say burgundy.
Is that what puce is?
Yeah, I just Googled it to see what color it was.
Oh, I'm like Sully from Monsters Inc. I'm like, oh, that's puce.
Oh wait, okay, no, it's not burgundy. It looks more. I'm getting more pinkish vibes from it. It's like a pink that is on the verge of salmon, but not salmon. So it's not like a bright pink, like a Tickle Me Pink or a magenta.
Join us here on Potterless for more color theory and color name pigments, and we're gonna get someone from Crayola on the show, and it's gonna be great.
Yeah, I think it is also some sort of bug though, because it basically is alternating between pictures of this color and then a tiny thing that looks like a termite or a lice or something.
Oh, weird.
Interesting. It says it's like a dark red or or brownish purple color as the definition. I don't know why when I go to images, there's a bunch of like mites.
I don't know. All I know is Vernon Dursley is a pretty confident man to open the door wearing a dressing gown of that color.
But hey, props to Vernon. Vernon starts with, I don't mean to be rude, and Dumbledore butts in, yet sadly, accidental rudeness occurs alarmingly often.
Yes.
Best to say nothing at all, my dear man. Which is like, great, that's the best response to anyone saying like, I don't mean to be racist, but, or like, not to offend you, but.
Not to offend you, but you're going to anyway? Good to go on.
Yeah, no offense. Let me say something offensive. So I love Dumbledore's response to this.
Oh, it's so good. It's such a good way to shut people down.
It's great. It's really good. Then Petunia enters. JK again calls her horse-faced for the 6th time, which I know that Petunia is like based off someone that JK Rowling hates, but like, did you really need to call this person horse-faced for 6 books?
Wait, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so apparently Privet, like they live on Privet Drive. Privet, I think, is the last name of someone that used to pick on J.K. Rowling in school. So she, rather than heavy-handedly make the name of this awful family, the Privets, it is the street that they lived on. And I'm only assuming that it was a girl who J.K. Rowling thought looked like a horse. So the way that she's going to get back to her is by calling this Lady Petunia that lives on Privet Drive horse-faced for 6 books.
It just goes to show, don't bully kids, because one day they'll write you as the villain in a really famous novel.
Exactly. Dumbledore tells Harry that they're going to have this conversation that he alluded to earlier in the sitting room, and then Vernon's like, oh, are you? And then Dumbledore uses a spell to basically make the couch come to life and force them to sit down in it.
Yeah, Vernon, I am. What do you want to do about it?
Sit down, have a seat. So Harry sees that Dumbledore's hand is burnt and shriveled up. Harry's like, what happened to your hand? And Dumbledore says, we'll talk about it later. Don't worry.
Don't worry about it.
It's chill. My hand is just burnt off. So Dumbledore is being like kind of rude to the Dursleys, honestly, but they suck, so it's okay.
I love how Dumbledore just tramples all over their hospitality and knows, in this scene in particular, knows 100% that they deserve it. And it's just great.
Yeah, it's great. Dumbledore uses magic to make some mead appear and pour everyone glasses. Harry's 16, so he can't drink mead, right?
16's the drinking age in England.
It's 16?
Yeah.
Really? Why did I think it was 18?
I don't know. It's 16.
Whoa. Okay.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Yeah, it was fine. He's fine. It's good.
Okay. Chill. First thing that Dumbledore says to Harry is that Sirius left Harry all of his possessions in his will. So now Harry, in addition to having a comically large amount of money in Gringotts, has even more money in Gringotts. But there is a problem with this will, and it's the fact that the house on Grimmauld Place now belongs to Harry. Harry's like, oh, you guys can keep it and use it as headquarters. I don't really care.
And Dumbledore says, but...
Yeah, but we would. But we vacated it because we were afraid that the Black family cursed it to prevent anyone that is not a pureblood from owning it. Dumbledore says that the curse might pass to the eldest of Sirius's pure-blood living relatives in this case, which would be Bellatrix.
Which would be Sirius's murderer.
Yep.
That's so messed up.
Right? Super duper creepy, but the family hated him, so... So Dumbledore says we have to do a test. And what is this test? It's giving a command to creature. Woof. Woof.
Hey, if this slave recognizes that your authority over it, you can have the house.
Oh no, it's so much worse when you put it that way. So creature enters and is repeatedly saying, no, I won't do it. I belong to Bellatrix. Bellatrix is my master, blah, 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 blah. Basically, the test is give him an order. So Harry's like, no, I don't want him. Just give him to Bellatrix. And Dumbledore says, oh, really? Do you want that when Creature has been at the headquarters for the past year? And Harry's like, crap, you're right. Creature just keeps repeatedly saying won't over again. And Harry goes, Creature, shut up, which turns out to be the command. God.
And he immediately shuts up and starts like
choking,
flipping out. He just bashes his hands into the floor. He's like, no.
It's so good. Oh, it was really funny. Like, I legitimately laughed out loud. It was so funny because I'm just imagining Harry just being like, shut up. And then it is the perfect test. So that is confirmed. So they're like, oh, great. We can move back into Grimmauld Place and not have to worry about stuff. Dumbledore suggests ordering Creature to work in the Hogwarts kitchen, which seems reasonable. And Harry's like, yeah, that's a good idea. Creature, go to the kitchen. And then he apparates away. So then they move on to the fact that Harry is now in charge of Buckbeak.
Wait, so that brings up an interesting point of the legality of who owns Buckbeak, because at what point did the title transfer over to Sirius?
Yeah, I don't know if this is an official one or if this is just...
That's what I'm saying, is like, in what universe does Sirius own Buckbeak in any official capacity?
Yeah, I think what it just boils down to is that obviously Sirius was not anticipating his death, so I'm assuming his will was just one sentence that was to just give all my stuff to Harry.
Oh,
They're
fair.
just using this pretty liberally to be like, we didn't know exactly what you want to do with Buckbeak. We had Hagrid looking over him, and Harry goes, yeah, let Hagrid keep looking over him. And Dumbledore goes, oh, great. Hagrid will be really happy to hear that. He missed Buckbeak. So at least Buckbeak is now back in Hagrid's possession, so I guess it all works out in the end.
But he can't use his given name of Buckbeak because the man might track him down, so we have to use a fake name for the animal. What?
Yeah, we have to give him Witherwings, which is a bad name. I guess it's still an alliteration name, which is dumb. Like, I hate how many alliteration names are in the Harry Potter universe. So they go from Buckbeak to Witherwings. But I do like that they basically have to put Buckbeak in wizard witness protection.
Witness protection.
Like, I thought that was just great that they have to do that.
I didn't even think about it that way, but you're so right. That's exactly what happens to the hippogriff.
So Dumbledore's like, oh, Harry, did you pack? And he's like, And Dumbledore's like, what? Did you think I wasn't going to show up? And he's like, I just got to finish. So he runs upstairs to pack, packs all his stuff in 10 minutes.
So relatable, though. How relatable is, hey,
God.
Your parents asking you, hey, did you pack for the trip? And you go, 1 minute. And then you run into your room and throw everything into your suitcase.
So I went to college at Rice University in Houston, and my parents lived in a suburb of Houston, and there were multiple times where they would pick me up to take me home for, holidays or whatever. And almost every single time, because it only took me about like 45 minutes to like get all my stuff together, I would wait for my parents to call and be like, hey, we're on our way. And then I would start packing. But there were a few times where my parents would call and they'd be like, hey, we'll be there in 10 minutes. And I'd be like, oh, shit. And then I'd have to like rapid pack and I'd never finish and blah. My parents hated me for it. They always make fun of me for it, and it's still to this day. So at some point when Dumbledore's talking about the will thing, the Dursleys complain that they want the drinks to get off of them, and we learn that literally the glasses have been charmed to like try to get the people to drink out of them.
Oh yeah, they're
and
like
the
bouncing
Dursleys
off their
refuse,
skulls.
so they're like angrily bouncing off their face. Yeah, exactly. They're like, drink up, bitch. Like, come on. So Dumbledore's like, oh, sorry, and then like calls them off. So when Harry comes down and he's finished packing and they're about to leave, Dumbledore says, okay, look, there's only going to be one more time that Harry has to come back here because he's going to come of age next year. And Petunia goes, no, because he'll only be 17. He's 1 month younger than Dudley. And then Dumbledore goes, yes, that's true. But in the wizarding world, people come of age at age 17. And I think that this is just a giant ploy by J.K. Rowling to make the relationship between Hermione and Crumb be less creepy.
Oh, no. I hadn't considered that possibility at all.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's just a way for her to be like, oh, yeah, when they graduate school, they should be adults. And she just like did the math wrong. Or she planned this all from the beginning. But regardless, no matter what, at the end of the day, and it even technically might make it worse because Crumb is an adult earlier. Like Crumb is an adult while Hermione is a kid. There are people on Twitter that will vehemently defend the relationship. And I'm like, no, Crumb and Hermione was so creepy and never should have happened. He was like, come over to my house over the summer. It's like, no, she's a child and you're graduated. Ooh. This is not okay, Mr. Crumb. Yeah. So basically, that's a fun thing we learned that Dumbledore doesn't explain why, but that's how we are in the Wizarding World. Dumbledore says that he asked them to treat Harry like a son when he dropped him off, and they clearly failed to do so. So he is very upset. He says that Harry is lucky to have escaped the damage that they have clearly done to Dudley, and the parents are like, what? Huh?
That was one of my favorite parts, that he was like, yeah, and I'm not even going to talk about the damage you did to your own son. And they're like, what did we do to our son? Yeah, that's what you did to your son.
Exactly. He's the worst. He says that basically Harry's going to come back one final time next year, which will ensure the charm lasting the entirety of his adult life, because as long as he's like good when he goes into adulthood, then
is that what he says? Or I don't know, that's what he said. I'm pretty sure what he says is, this is his last opportunity to have this protection, and after that it wears off forever, so I want it to last as long as possible.
Oh, that's what. Okay, let me see. That's what I thought at first, but then I must have misread. I have my book, and I'll pull it up.
Yeah.
The magic I evoked 15 years ago means that Harry has powerful protection while he can still call this house home. However miserable he has been here, however unwelcome, however badly treated, you have at least grudgingly allowed him a room. The magic will cease to operate the moment that Harry turns 17. In other words, at the moment he becomes a man. I only ask this that you allow Harry to return once more to this house before his 17th birthday, which will ensure that the protection continues until that time. Oh, okay, yeah. So basically he's just trying to maximize the effects of this charm until he becomes 17. Oh, you're right. Wow. Okay. Ooh, that sucks. I mean, but I guess it makes sense. So then they leave. Dumbledore does a charm to send all of Harry's stuff to the Burrow except for his invisibility cloak. Dumbledore hits him with an amazing quote before they leave, which is, "Let us step out into the night and pursue that flighty temptress adventure." And again, he puts on sunglasses, the CSI Miami intro starting. Yeah! And that's the end of chapter 3. 2 chapters so far have ended on that, which is great.
I wish every chapter ended on that. That should just be the whole book.
Oh, God, it'd be so good. Yes, please. When they eventually remake the books into miniseries, every episode's got to end with a quote like that. Yeah! So then we get into chapter 4. But before we get into chapter 4, I've got a quick spell for you, Mischa. Wingardium Adridosa! Wow, look at us. We made it. Here we are, the first ever Potterless sponsorship. Today's episode of Potterless is brought to you by Audible. If you haven't heard of Audible, I'm sure that the rock you're living under is very nice. Look, I have a hunch that you guys might enjoy reading because, fun fact, Harry Potter is a book series, but not so fun fact, multitasking while reading books is very challenging. That's where Audible comes in, because they have an unmatched selection of audiobooks, and audiobooks make multitasking while reading possible. Never again will you be pulled over for reading a book while driving. Never again will you accidentally burn your book while reading and cooking at the same time. And never again will you mistakenly throw your book into the washing machine trying to read and do laundry at the same time. You can listen to audiobooks from Audible basically in any situation in which you would normally listen to a podcast. And Audible is offering Potterless listeners a free audiobook when they sign up for a 30-day free trial by either going to audible.com/Potterless or texting the word Potterless to 500-500. Now, if you're listening and you're thinking, oh my goodness, an unmatched selection of audiobooks, how will I choose just one for my book and my free trial? Well, I actually have a great suggestion for you. Julia Shafini of Spirits Podcast recommended a book to me called The Children of Blood and Bone. It just released a month ago, and it is the start of a new series that takes place in fictional West Africa. So this story follows the daughter of a soul reaper who is fighting against a prince, and he is trying to eradicate magic from the land. So, not good. It's basically Harry Potter meets Avatar: The Last Airbender meets Black Panther, and I'm very excited to start listening to it. It's going to be a great series, I am convinced. So it's kind of like Harry Potter. You can get in on the ground floor and start listening to this book now, and then you can brag to all of your friends that you started reading it before all of them. The other great thing about the audiobook for Children of Blood and Bone is that it's pretty sizable. It is 18 hours and 9 minutes of audio, which is more than enough to hold you over during the 2-week gap between episodes of Potterless, so you won't need to tweet at me, I'm all caught up on Potterless. What am I gonna do? You're gonna go to audible.com/Potterless or text Potterless to 500-500 to get your copy of Children of Blood and Bone and start your 30-day free trial. The other great thing about Audible is that when you get an audiobook, you actually own the audiobook. It's not like a streaming service where you're just watching it momentarily, temporarily. You actually own all of the audiobooks that you receive. And so if you have to cancel your membership at any time, you will keep these audiobooks forever. It's like your own digital little bookshelf. So again, big thank you to Audible, and let's get back to the episode. Then we get into chapter 4, the final chapter of this episode of Potterless, Horace Slughorn. So they apparate out of Privet Drive, which works by Harry grabbing Dumbledore's arm and then him apparating, which I don't know how that apparition works, but clearly, or apparition works. Also, very weird that the noun version of apparate is apparition and not apparition. I don't understand why that is what it is.
I also think that it's weird that teleporting is like getting your driver's license in the wizarding world. That messes me up.
Yeah, very interesting.
I'm like, oh, cool, everyone can just teleport, I guess. Awesome. Banks are nothing.
So, yeah, interesting that that's how it works, but I guess it just follows the Nightcrawler rules from X-Men. So, Dumbledore asks Harry if his scar hurts, and Harry's like, oh no, actually, come to think of it, it doesn't. And Dumbledore goes, yep, that's what I thought. Voldemort probably is using occlumency to stop the connection because sometimes you can feel his emotions and see what he sees. So, Voldemort probably just wants to put a stop to it, and Harry goes, fine by me, which is a classic Harry response.
Classic Harry, as long as I'm not having bad dreams, who cares if we had a way to spy on the greatest enemy?
Exactly. So the town that they are in is not the borough. It's actually the village of Budley Babberton, which, okay, that's a name.
So I mentioned this before, that there's just like a bunch of weird wizard villages scattered throughout England, and this is one of them.
Here's one. Dumbledore has a great quote where he goes, ah, yes, of course. I haven't told you, which is classic Dumbledore. Like, that was the whole plot of the 5th book. Was, yes, of course, I haven't told you. So they need to get a new Defense Against the Dark Arts professor, as is tradition in the Harry Potter books, because no Dada prof can last more than 1 year. My guess is that this is going to be Horace Slughorn, who the chapter is named after. Harry hints at Dumbledore to talk about his thoughts on Scrimgeour. He's kind of like, oh, did you see that article? And Dumbledore basically dodges the question and says, well, at least he's not going to underestimate Voldemort. So Harry can't get the juicy gossip out of Dumbledore.
Dumbledore is too wise to that jive for Harry's little gossip circle to break in. Dumbledore's a brick wall.
Speaking of Dumbledore being a brick wall, Harry asks about the hand again, and Dumbledore says, not yet. It is a thrilling tale, and I want to do it justice, which, man.
Yeah, Dumbledore's like, no, let me tell you over drinks later.
Yeah, he's like, the theatrics of this, like, we need a time and place for this story, Harry. It's a good one. So Dumbledore says that the list of things to do that the Ministry sent out is very foolish, and then Harry asks about the Inferi, so that the reader can learn what the hell these things are.
Surprise!
We learn that they are corpses.
Yep, there are zombies. There are Harry Potter zombies.
And they are dead bodies that are enchanted by Voldemort to do his bidding. They haven't been around since Voldemort took last power, because I guess he's the only guy that can do this.
They haven't been around since J.K. Rowling thought of the concept for the 6th book.
I'm glad that you came with this, because that's something I've said on many episodes of the podcast.
Absolutely. They bring up the Inferi in chapter 2, and then in chapter 4, they're like, what are the Inferi? And Dumbledore's like, oh, you didn't know that these things have always existed the whole time? And I'm like, I see you, J.K. You can't fool me.
It is exactly what happened in the beginning of Goblet of Fire, where it's like, oh, Victor Crumb did this thing in Quidditch where his team was down by 160 points, and then he caught the snitch. That's how I retcon the scoring system to Quidditch, which clearly people have made fun of for the past 3 books. Like, this is JK is no stranger to doing this. But yes, you'd mentioned earlier that you wanted to, did you want to rant about this, or was that the rant that it's just very convenient JK Rowling coming up with something 6 books in?
Oh, no, I didn't want to rant about it. I just wanted to be like, oh, first off, you pulled this out of your ass. Second, the thing you pulled out of your ass is horrifying and has so many more implications that, like, there are zombies here. I thought this was a zombie-free place, and turns out it was full of zombies. I opened it, and it ruined Christmas, and there were zombies in it.
We have been confirmed now that there are werewolves, zombies, vampires, and Jesus in the wizarding world. So
wait,
all
where's
the
confirmation
exist.
of Jesus being? Is Jesus a wizard? Is that what it is?
I don't know, but they celebrate Easter and Christmas every year, so clearly.
That's true. That's something that kind of gets brought up in like other fantasy novels that take place in the modern world. Like I know in the Dresden Files, they like have a separate like magic source that is faith. Like you can have magic or you can have faith, and they're equally powerful. And like Jesus was like the ultimate faith figure, and just wielded that faith power. But I want that answer in like other worlds. I know that you can't be irreverent and just be like, oh yeah, Jesus was a wizard trying to trick people, because like that's not cool. But I would like to see like, so was Jesus a wizard? And have Dumbledore be like, no, Jesus was something else, and like we actually don't know. And I would like to see that.
Yeah, that would have been super cool. Maybe in a future book, who knows? So They come upon this house of a person that this whole trip is to visit, and the house is wrecked. Dumbledore is in the middle of this wreckage, and he pokes an armchair, which turns out to be Horace in disguise.
So McGonagall can turn into a cat, and Sirius can turn into a dog, and he can turn into a chair.
He's a furniture magus. Yeah, so this is something, and I don't know if I just missed this or if they didn't make it clear, but like, was all of this just like a joke, or was there a reason to having things in disarray?
No, he like wrecked his house to make Dumbledore think that they broke in and took him so that he would leave and not ask Horace Slughorn to be a professor.
Okay.
It was like a
Interesting.
ruse.
Okay, now it makes sense. Because I was like, is this just like a bit that Horace Slughorn does? Like, is this a joke he has with Dumbledore? Like,
oh, Horace Slughorn, you got me with that old armchair trick again. Classic us Slughorn.
the old destroyed house ruse. Ha ha ha.
Oh, you got me with the old Slughorn. You got me.
So, and there was like dragon's blood on the wall and stuff. It was a very elaborate hoax. They help clean up everything together, and then Horace sees Harry and he goes, "Oh, this isn't going to be enough to tempt me to take the position, Dumbledore." Dumbledore asks if they can have a drink. They all sit. Dumbledore asks how he is. Horace complains of feeling the pains of old age and being sore and, classic old man stuff. And apparently Slughorn did all of this in only 2 minutes. He didn't hear their intruder alarm. He just, got wind of Dumbledore coming, apparently, and then put together this elaborate ruse.
And then just threw everything on the ground.
Yep. Yeah, there's got to be a spell for that, right? Basically, Slughorn says he doesn't want the position because he's old and wants to just be retired. He sees Dumbledore's burnt hand, and he's like, "Oh, clearly you're slipping too. Maybe you should consider retirement." Dumbledore goes, "Well, old age does have its perks," and then spreads his arm out, shows him a ring. Harry notices it, and then no other discussion is had.
Yeah, what does that mean?
No idea, but the narrator does this all the time. It's like, here's a thing, not going to tell you about this. Ooh, I'll tell you in 5 chapters. I'm the narrator.
What a mystery. Ooh, the ring. Something to do with age, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. We'll learn about it in 5 chapters. He has been on the move for about a year to avoid the Death Eaters. Apparently, he just keeps going from Muggle house to Muggle house of people that are on vacation, which I think is great.
Would like to say so much easier with Airbnb. That he could do that above board. He wouldn't have to sneak around.
Yep, he would be killing the game. Horace brings up hearing bad rumors of how Umbridge was treated. He's like, "That's how you treat your professors?" And then Dumbledore is like, "Oh, come on, Horace, you wouldn't be so dumb as to mess with the centaurs." And he goes, "Oh, is that what she did? Ah, what an idiotic woman. Never liked her anyway."
Come on, Horace. You're selective with who you like, but even you're not that racist against centaurs.
Yep. Harry laughs. They turn and look at him, and he goes, "Oh, sorry, I just didn't like her either." So Dumbledore has to use the bathroom. He does. He leaves, and then Horace turns to Harry and goes, "Don't think I don't know why he brought you here." And then he goes on to say that Harry looks just like James, but with Lily's eyes. Harry is bored about hearing this because apparently he hears it so much.
Harry is like, "Oh, yeah, I've heard it all before. Yeah, I have my mother's eyes. Move on, please."
Get over it. We learn that Lily was Slughorn's favorite student, and he reveals that he was the head of Slytherin, and he wanted Lily to be in their house. He also reveals that all of the blacks were in Slytherin except for Sirius, and he has this weird quote where he says, "I would have liked to have the whole set," which is weird because he's talking about human beings.
Well, that's kind of his whole MO. He's like, "Yes, I would have liked to add them to my collection of celebrities that I keep and have cool perks from."
Yeah, it's kind of weird, and at first I thought Slughorn was funny because I liked this armchair bit, but the more he talks, the more I'm like, I don't really like this guy. Also, his name is Slughorn, which is really close to Slugworth, which was the creepy dude in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Yeah, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, but he turned out to be good in the end, so I think that's one of my favorite characters in anything ever, is that Slugworth the whole time is just like this creepy dude, and then at the very end, Willy Wonka just like, "No, Slugworth is great. He's just weird looking."
I don't think that guy was Slugworth. I think it was a guy posing as Slugworth and spying for Willy Wonka.
Oh, okay. So there is a different Slugworth, and that actually does suck.
Yeah.
And this guy was just like, "No, I'm just creepy and menacing."
Yeah.
I want the recipe for the everlasting gobstopper.
Slughorn has this weird collection, which I've heard of teachers that do this. There were a couple of professors at my college that did this, and it was kind of weird.
Ooh. Yeah, that's not the best. I had a teacher in 8th grade that kind of did this, but not in a bad way. So I went to a pretty small middle school. There's only like 60 people per grade.
Oh, wow.
When you got into 6th, 7th, and 8th grade there, they had like 2 math classes. They had accelerated math and then, just regular math. So like we learned algebra in 8th grade when pre-algebra was covered for the other kids. And you kept the same teacher for 3 years, which was really cool because you got to have, she was honestly one of the best teachers I've ever had. And you got to just have this same person teaching you something for 3 consecutive years, which was awesome. It was a really cool program. And basically there were like 15 of us in this program, and our teacher got pretty close with the people that tried the most in the class, but it wasn't like she tried to pick out people that were the best. It was basically like people that put a lot of effort into this class, she became close with. And then in New Jersey, where I went to school, like there was always a span in the winter where you'd have indoor recess, which sucks because you basically just like go into a classroom and play board games.
Indoor recess was the worst.
It was awful. So when indoor recess went around, she gave us permission, the kids that, you know, made a good effort and made an effort to be close to her. She was like, hey, for indoor recess, you can come to my classroom, and we used to just like play spades with her, which was like tight. So
cool.
it was like, it wasn't like she picked us out. It was like the people that clearly identified as giving the most effort. She was like, hey, you can hang out with me instead of playing Connect 4 while everyone screams and runs around a classroom.
Yeah. No, Slughorn is definitely doing something else where, like, people go on to be famous, and then he's like, yeah, I spotted that, and now give me favors.
Yep. It's like trying to take bragging
Or,
rights.
like, we'll make it happen. Like, he says he has that connection to, like, the Goblin Liaison office, and, like, yes, I installed this person there, and, like, wow, you used your influence at this school to change a political office. That's neat. That's cool.
Solely to make you look cool. It's very strange.
That's the Slytherin in him, right? That's the ambition.
Yeah. Furthering my question, which I don't know why people who are from Slytherin or people who identify as Slytherin, like normal people in the real world, think that doesn't suck. Like, there's been no signs of Slytherins being good or cool or nice. They're all just like horrible racist people.
That's kind of one of the things that drives me away from Harry Potter fandom, is that, like, there are just no good Slytherin characters in the books. They're all bad people. And like, I have a bunch of friends. I took the Pottermore test. I'm a Slytherin. Lauren Shippen, my boss and good friend, is a Slytherin. Like, I know people that identify that way, and they're like, yeah, but there's qualities that are not, like, necessarily good or evil. And I'm all for removing morality from personality types and examining it in different ways. But where's the representation in the universe that allows me to believe that?
I'm on the same page where it's like, I get people trying to like make the most of it and stuff. And I totally would have guessed that you were a Slytherin in terms of like what people identify it now. I just think that like when people say I'm a Slytherin, it is very different than saying like I'm the same house that is described in these books, because what's so far been described in these 6 books is a bunch of fucking racists, and that's it.
Yeah.
Like, there's no good Slytherin. You've got Crabbe Goyle, the Malfoys, Narcissa, Pansy Parkinson, Voldemort,
all of the
Snape.
blacks except for Sirius.
Yeah, like everyone that's like 100% success rate of if you are in Slytherin, you suck. The dude that created the house was the most racist person.
Yeah.
So maybe it comes around later, but at least for now, where I'm at in the books, everybody in Slytherin fucking sucks. So let's see. Yeah, he goes on to show these pictures of all of these past students that have gone on to do great things, and they're all signed, and it's really weird and really creepy, and it made me so uncomfortable that I didn't even write that much down. Like, I didn't really like it.
Yeah, it's like this weird, like, famous people collection. It's like oh, look how cool I am that I made all of this happen. No, you're not cool. You should give power back to the people.
Exactly. So Dumbledore comes back in from the bathroom and perfectly baits Slughorn into taking the position, because he basically has left him alone with Harry enough to start thinking about having Harry as like one of his prized possessions. Harry also accidentally gave like the greatest pitch to be a professor at Hogwarts ever. He says something like, oh, you should be a professor. It'd be great. And then Slughorn's like, oh, I don't want to join the Order of the Phoenix. Then I'm basically, you know, asking to be hurt by Voldemort. And Harry's like, well, you don't have to join the Order of the Phoenix if you're a professor. Like, there's plenty of professors that are in the Order of the Phoenix. And honestly, it's probably best to be around Dumbledore all the time, because Dumbledore is the only person that Voldemort fears. And then Slughorn starts to think like, oh yeah, true.
Oh yeah, wait, this is better than jumping from house to house every year.
Exactly. So Dumbledore then comes in at the exact right time and is like, all right, well, this is a lost cause. We might as well just leave. Perfectly getting Slughorn to blurt out, you know, oh, what, you know what? No, I'll stay. I'll do it. So he agrees. Dumbledore says, great. And then after they leave and they're walking out of this house, Dumbledore asks Harry if he liked him. And Harry, much like us, basically says, these vibes he got are weird, because he did have a quote earlier where he said he thought it was strange that Lily was such a powerful and talented wizard, even though she has Muggle blood. And Harry was like, oh, well, the best person at Gryffindor right now, Hermione, she has Muggle parents. This is kind of weird that you think this. And think about Voldemort and think about me. And it's this weird thing that Slughorn says for no reason.
He's like, isn't it weird how non-purebloods sometimes are good at magic? And Harry's like, not that weird.
Yeah, it's a super weird, it was very strange and made me pretty uncomfortable that he said it. So I don't have the best vibes with Slughorn. I don't know what Dumbledore is getting at, but Dumbledore usually is right, so we'll have to see what happens. Dumbledore does admit that Slughorn does this whole picking favorites thing, explains this to Harry, and he says, I'm telling you this, Harry, not so that you dislike him, but to keep you on guard, because Slughorn might try to make you the crown jewel of his collection. So that's the reason that Dumbledore brought Harry, was so that he could basically entice Slughorn into joining the position, which is, gotta say,
Harry
pretty
was
smart
bait.
move. He was bait, yeah, but smart move by Dumbledore. Gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah, that's classic Dumbledore play, too.
Yeah, it is a good little Dumbledore play. So they apparate to the burrow, and before they enter into the house, they go into a little cupboard, a spidery cupboard on the side, and they start talking about a few things before they enter. So Dumbledore first says he wants to commend Harry for dealing with Sirius's death so well. He says that Sirius would be very proud of the way that Harry is taking this. And Harry says, I knew that Sirius would not want me to be depressed and shut everyone off because of it, so I'm really trying to avoid it and, keep my chin up.
That's a really healthy reaction, Harry. That's really good of you.
It's really nice that he's grown from angsty piece of shit in the 5th book to, mature person that is appropriately dealing with stuff. So Dumbledore has a great quote where he says, I would take my hat off to you if I were not afraid of showering you in spiders because of the broom shed having a bunch of spiders in it. So he moves on to the prophecy. Dumbledore says that he gives Harry permission and suggests that he ought to tell Ron and Hermione about the prophecy because it's not fair to keep them out of the loop and that they can probably help him deal with it, and it's probably for the best seeing that they have helped him with so much stuff in the past. Dumbledore then goes on to say that he will be giving Harry private lessons throughout this year. Harry is relieved because he goes, oh, great. Now I don't have to do occlumency with Snape anymore, right? Those were, and then Dumbledore butts in, a fiasco would be the proper word to use here. Which, I love that Dumbledore is humble enough to be like, yeah, I really messed up with that one.
Yeah.
Everything I did in the 5th book there was a poor decision. Harry then goes on to say oh, well, looks like I'm not going to be seeing a lot of Snape this year. I can't take the next level of potions unless I get an outstanding on my owls exams. And then Dumbledore says, don't count your owls before they are delivered, which I don't know how Harry's going to get a good enough grade on these owls, but he is trash at potions.
Honestly, they crammed real hard for that test.
They did.
I have done better on tests where I was failing the class because I did an all-night cram session, especially if your best friend is Hermione Granger,
True.
Queen of studying for everything.
The other thing is they did mention that the one time that Snape just ignores Harry the entirety of a lesson in potions class, that Harry makes the potion almost perfectly. So maybe in a final, when it's just him doing his own thing without Snape messing with him, maybe Harry freaking kills it.
Maybe Harry is just like me, where it doesn't matter how much he knows about the course material. If he hates the teacher, he fails the course. That was me all through middle school, all through high school,
it's valid.
Even into college. It didn't matter how much I knew or how much how well I did on the test. If I didn't like the teacher, I ended up doing really poorly in the course.
Yeah, I've been the same way, where it's just if you don't have a positive feeling about the professor, you just don't have any motivation to try. Mm-hmm. And when you really like the professor, you have all the motivation to try. So I guess it makes sense. Dumbledore reveals that later today they should be getting those letters. So that'll be something fun to learn next chapter. He also mentions that the Burrow has high security by the Ministry, which is making things a bit tough on the Weasleys. They have to have all their mail read by the Ministry and all this other stuff. So Dumbledore says, because this is putting a lot of stress on the Weasleys, can you just please try to not act up and act out or do anything rash while you're with them?
Can you just not be yourself for 5 fucking minutes, Harry Potter?
Literally, he's like, can you just not be Harry Potter for a little bit? And this means Harry is definitely going to do something stupid. And that is the end of chapter 4. And that is the end of this episode of Potterless. So, Mischa, how are you feeling about these chapters? What are your thoughts?
These chapters reveal that, people are definitely growing and changing, which was a worry. Like, for the first few books, you kind of get a sense that there's like a pattern they're trying to establish. And then in book 5, Harry's all angsty, so you're like, he changed, but it's a bad change. In the beginning of book 6, you can see that like there's more to Dumbledore than you first thought. There's more to Harry than you first thought. Yeah. There's more to, these adult characters that we don't really follow than you first thought. There's like, they're peeling back the layers in a way that I like.
Yes, it's good. It was good to see lots of different people have maturity, both with Dumbledore and with Harry, and it was nice. So it's definitely not as hype as the first chapter here where all this stuff is happening, but we do get to learn a lot about the depth of different characters like Snape and all this other stuff. So I thought it was good. I've really high hopes for this book so far. I can see why people really like it. These first 4 chapters were super solid, and it's off to a great start. So I'm excited to continue along with this book. But that is the end of the episode. But listeners, thank you so much for listening. Mischa, thank you so much for being here. Is there anything you want to plug before we say goodbye to our friends?
You know what I want to plug? Listen to an audio drama podcast. Yeah. Like, if you don't, check them out. There's so much cool fiction happening in podcasts.
There is.
And like, people don't know about it, and I think they should.
I agree. I really do agree. And I've had on the podcast lots of different people involved. I've had Lauren Shippen, who's made the Bright Sessions, which is basically like X-Men, but talks more about their feelings and stuff, which is great. It's like young adult X-Men. It's amazing. Then you've got Wolf 359. I had Zach Valenti on. It's an amazing space story where it's very a la Breaking Bad, where like it starts off very funny and you get emotionally attached to the characters because of all the antics, and then shit hits the fan and gets real, and then you're so invested. You've got your show that you work on, Ars Paradoxica, which is all about time travel and the Cold War, and
like morals and ethics and how morality is really, really difficult in high stress scenarios.
You've got the Adventure Zone, which is amazing hybrid of Dungeons and Dragon and people that are objectively good at improv comedy, which is super fun, and a more lighthearted one that still has a really gripping story. Audio dramas are great.
Yeah.
I didn't know they existed until the team from Spirits was like, you should listen to all of these. And I was like, this is a thing. And now I am hooked, and I listen to a bunch of them, and I can't recommend them enough. Join the Party is another amazing one, part of the Multitude team. Like, Join the Party is great.
Yeah, Join the Party is fantastic. I'm on Join the Party. I have a recurring role in Join the Party.
Woo, I had a one-line cameo. Woohoo!
Nice. But like, there's just a lot of good fiction happening where not a lot of people are looking, and it's all without like network oversight and having to cater to the baseline middle the way that like TV or movies kind of do these days. It's like writers doing radical things because no one's telling them no. And I think it's so cool, and that like that's where the cool stories are happening these days.
Yeah, I agree. So I would recommend to everyone, if you are not invested in any audio dramas yet, check out some. I recommend the ones that we suggested, but anything is good. Audio dramas are just real fun.
Yeah, or even audio comedies too. There's a bunch of audio comedies too.
Yeah, good little plug there. But yes, anyway, Mischa, thank you for being here. Listeners, thank you so much for listening. And until next time, as they say in the wizarding world of Harry Potter, before throwing the powder on the fireplace to open up the Flu Network, Wizard on! If you enjoy Potterless Podcast and you know someone in your life that you think would enjoy it as well, why don't you tell them about it? Honestly, spreading the podcast by word of mouth is the biggest thing that you can do to help us out, and I really do appreciate it so much for all of you who have already done so, and for those who are planning to do so. Potterless was created by Mick Schubert, it is hosted by Mick Schubert, it is edited by Mick Schubert, it is produced by Mick Schubert, as well as Leanne Davis, Andreas Ozelby, Vicky Garcia, Aaron Johnson, Erica and Calvin Bauer, Michael Vanderslice, Sadie Bear, Jesse Horgan, Natalie Klobuchar, Deborah Wilkins, Klaus Serlopu, Alex Stark, Rebecca Adamek, Frank Chiodo Marchismo, Tori Larsick, Samantha Rose, Juan Sanfeliu, Sheila Vidianathan, Jenna Dowsett, Kieran Webb, Luis Nusak, Akanksha Saxena, Sarah Salvador, Rebecca Vinsnes, Abid Ahmed, Caitlin Jordan Pontello, Lee Xiaoru, Ayana Chalewa, Benjamin Bridges, and Dave the Mailman. Web design by Kelly Beckman, and the music is by Bettina Campamanes. Thank you guys so much for listening. You can find us at social media. Just search for Potterless Podcast, and all of the information about the show is at potterlesspodcast.com. Thanks to Audible for sponsoring this episode, and until next time, as they say in the wizarding world of Harry Potter, Wizard on!